You call it love. But what if it's hunger? What if everything you've named love, every desperate reach across the darkness, every sleepless night where their name echoes in your chest like a prayer to an absent God, every heart that shatters into 1,000 pieces when they don't text back, when they look through you like glass, when they choose someone else, when they disappear without explanation? What if none of it is love at all? What if it's unhealed energy, seeking itself in another's eyes? What if it's the deepest wound you carry, masquerading as the highest virtue you possess? What if it's the most desperate thirst calling itself devotion? What if it's the most violent need disguised as tenderness? What if it's the most selfish hunger wearing the beautiful mask of selfless care? You think you love them, but look closer. Look at the way you cling to their words like a drowning person clings to driftwood. Look at the way you break apart when they pull away, when they need space, when they choose themselves over you. Look at the way you lose yourself completely when they're not there to reflect your worth back to you. Look at the way you become someone else entirely, just to keep them interested. Look at the way their mood determines your entire day. Look at the way their absence feels like death. This is not love, this is feeding. This is your inner void trying to fill itself with another's presence, another's attention, another's validation. This is unhealed energy, circling like a hungry ghost, seeking itself in every face that reminds you of safety, of home, of the love you never properly received. The truth cuts through everything you thought you knew about yourself. You are not loving them. You are using them. You are not caring for them. You are feeding off them. You are not devoted to them. You are addicted to the feeling they give you. And you've been calling this sacred for so long that the truth feels like blasphemy. From the moment you drew your first breath in this world, you learned to call this desperate need love. When mother's attention felt like oxygen filling your tiny lungs, when her smile meant you existed and her frown meant you might disappear, when father's approval meant the difference between being seen as worthy and being invisible, between safety and abandonment, when being noticed, being chosen, being held meant the difference between life and a kind of death. You were a child, reaching through the bars of your crib, and that reaching, that desperate, hungry, never satisfied reaching, was branded into your nervous system as love. They told you this was natural. They told you this was beautiful. They told you this was what it meant to care. But what they didn't tell you was that you were learning to confuse love with survival. You were learning to mistake need for affection. You were learning to call dependency intimacy. You were learning to call anxiety caring. You were learning to call possession protection. You were learning to call obsession devotion. Your parents loved you conditionally, when you were good, when you were quiet, when you made them proud, when you didn't cause problems, and you learned that love was something you earned through perfect performance. Your teachers loved you when you followed the rules, when you didn't ask too many questions, when you colored inside the lines, and you learned that love was a reward for compliance, for making yourself smaller, for not taking up too much space. Your first lovers loved the version of you that made them feel special, that didn't threaten them, that reflected their own image back to them. And you learned that love meant shapeshifting until you disappeared entirely, until you became whoever they needed you to be. And so your unhealed wounds became powerful magnets, unconsciously pulling at anything and anyone that reminded you of that first taste of conditional acceptance, of safety that could be withdrawn at any moment, of love that came with terms and conditions and fine print, of affection that had to be earned again and again and again. You learned to call this beautiful. You learned to call this sacred. You learned to call this the deepest thing the human heart could possibly feel. You learned to call this true love. But it was just your inner child, still reaching through the bars of the crib, still desperate and hungry for what was always missing, still trying to heal the original wound by finding its missing pieces scattered across other people's souls. Look at your relationship patterns with ruthless honesty. Look at how you consistently choose people who cannot fully see you, who cannot fully meet you, who cannot fully love you. Look at how you are drawn to unavailability like a moth to flame, like metal to magnet, Look at how you mistake intensity for intimacy, drama for depth, chaos for passion. Look at how you confuse someone's inability to love you properly with your need to try harder. Look at how you interpret their emotional unavailability as a challenge to overcome rather than information to receive. This is your unhealed energy, unconsciously seeking itself. This is your deepest wound, trying to complete its own broken story through another person's body, another person's heart, another person's life. You are not choosing partners. You are choosing mirrors for your wounds. You are not falling in love. You are falling into old patterns. You are not creating relationships. You are recreating the original trauma, hoping this time it will end differently. The ancient Greeks understood this distinction with a precision that cuts through millennia of confusion. They knew the fundamental difference between eros and agape, between the love that hungers and the love that nourishes, between the love that takes and the love that gives without counting the cost, between the love that seeks completion and the love that celebrates wholeness. What you have been calling love, what the culture has taught you to worship as love, is often eros wearing the elaborate mask of something higher and more pure. Eros is desire masquerading as devotion. Eros is the ego seeking completion through merger, through possession, through the fantasy of becoming one with another. Eros is the fractured psyche trying to become whole by finding its missing pieces scattered across another person's existence. Eros is not evil. Eros is not wrong. But Eros is not love. Eros is energy seeking itself, unconsciously, hungrily, desperately, violently. It is the part of you that was never held properly as a child, now trying to hold and be held in all the wrong ways. It is the part of you that was never seen clearly, now trying to see and be seen through the distorted lens of your wounds. It is the part of you that was never loved unconditionally, now trying to create the conditions for unconditional love through manipulation, through performance, through the endless exhausting work of earning what should be freely given. But here is what your unhealed energy does not understand, what it cannot comprehend, what it refuses to accept. You cannot heal through another person. You cannot complete yourself through merger. You cannot find yourself by losing yourself in someone else's arms, someone else's bed, someone else's life. You cannot fill your emptiness with another person's fullness. You cannot cure your loneliness by possessing someone else's presence. You cannot heal your abandonment wound by making sure someone never leaves. The very attempt to do so creates the opposite of what you seek. The tighter you cling, the more they pull away. The more you need them, the less they want to be needed. The more you try to possess them, the more they need to escape. The more you make them responsible for your happiness, the more they resent the burden. True love, agape, unconditional love, spiritual love, does not seek completion because it knows it is already complete. It does not hunger because it knows it is already fed. It does not need because it knows it already has everything. It does not break when the beloved walks away because its foundation was never built on another's presence. True love emerges only after you have found yourself in the wilderness of your own soul, only after you have faced your shadows without running, only after you have healed the original wound that created the hunger in the first place, only after you have learned to give yourself everything you have been desperately seeking from others. This is not the love they sold you in movies, where two broken people complete each other. This is not the love they sang about in songs where you can't live without someone. This is not the love celebrated in poetry, where you would die for another person. This is love as a spiritual practice, love as a conscious choice, love as a gift you give from fullness rather than a demand you make from emptiness, love as an expression of who you are rather than a strategy to get what you need. Real love, the love that transforms, the love that heals, the love that liberates, is born from wholeness. It emerges from the person who has done the inner work, who has traveled fearlessly into their own darkness and emerged carrying their own light. It flows from the soul who has learned to fill their own cup, to heal their own wounds, to complete their own broken story. This love gives because it overflows like a fountain that cannot help but flow, not because it needs to be needed, not because it fears abandonment if it doesn't give, not because it's trying to earn something in return: approval, validation, security, permanence. Not because it's afraid of what will happen if it stops giving. Like the sun, which shines not because it needs to be seen, not because it seeks recognition or gratitude, but because shining is its fundamental nature, its reason for existing. Like the river, which flows not because it seeks the ocean, not because it has a destination in mind, but because flowing is what rivers do. It is their essence, their gift, their natural expression. Like the tree, which gives oxygen not because it expects anything in return, not because it wants to be thanked, but because giving is how it participates in the dance of life. When you love from this place of inner wholeness, everything in your life changes. You do not cling because you are not afraid of loss. You know that what is real cannot be lost. You do not demand because you are not operating from lack. You know that you already have everything you need. You do not break when they leave, because your sense of wholeness was never dependent on their presence in the first place. You do not manipulate, because you do not need them to be anything other than who they are. You do not try to change them because you fell in love with their essence, not with your fantasy of who they could become. You love like the sky loves the clouds, holding them gently while they're there, allowing them to move freely when they must, remaining vast and unchanging and fundamentally unaffected whether they come or go. This love asks nothing, because it already has everything it needs. This love fears nothing, because it cannot be diminished by any external circumstance. This love loses nothing because it never possessed anything in the first place. It knows that true love is not about possession, but about appreciation, not about having, but about witnessing. It loves the beloved's freedom more than their presence. It loves their growth more than their consistency. It loves their truth more than their comfort with your truth. It loves their journey more than their destination. It loves their becoming more than their being. This is the love that can witness another person's pain without rushing in to fix it, without making it about you, without needing to be the hero of their story. This is the love that can celebrate another person's joy without needing to be the source of it, without feeling threatened by their happiness, without competing for their attention. This is the love that can let someone walk away without chasing them, without begging them to stay, without making them feel guilty for choosing themselves. This is the love that can say goodbye without dying, without falling apart, without losing itself in the process. This love does not make you smaller. It makes you larger. It does not diminish your light. It amplifies it until you become a beacon for others walking the same path. It does not complete you. It reveals that you were always complete, that you were never broken, that you were never missing anything essential. From this place of wholeness, you attract entirely different people into your life. You attract those who are also walking the path of self-discovery. You attract those who love from fullness rather than emptiness. You attract those who see love as a choice rather than a compulsion. You attract those who understand that real intimacy comes from two whole people, choosing to share their completeness, rather than two broken people trying to fix each other. And if you don't attract anyone at all for a while, that becomes perfect, too. Because you have learned the secret that changes everything, the truth that sets you free. You are already complete. You are already whole. You are already enough. You were never broken. You never needed fixing. You never needed another person to make you feel alive. The love you were seeking outside was always waiting inside. The completion you were trying to find in another was always your own to claim. The home you were looking for in someone else's arms was always in your own heart. But even this love, this pure, whole, overflowing love that asks nothing and gives everything, must learn the deepest teaching of all. Even this mature virtue must understand the profound power of withdrawal. Even this awakened heart must know when to step back into the sacred silence from which all love emerges. Because the highest love, the most refined love, the most spiritually mature love, is the love that can let go completely. The love that can disappear when disappearing serves the beloved's highest good. The love that can die to itself again and again, so that something entirely new can be born in the space that's created. Sometimes love means presence, being there, showing up, offering your full attention and care. Sometimes love means absence, stepping back, creating space, trusting the process more than your own need to be involved. Sometimes love means holding on, staying committed, working through difficulties, not giving up when things get challenging. Sometimes love means letting go so completely that you forget you ever held anything at all. The spiritually mature heart knows when to step back, when to give the beloved the precious gift of space to find themselves, when to love someone so deeply, so unconditionally, that you release them entirely to their own journey without interference, when to trust the larger intelligence of life so completely that you willingly remove yourself from the equation. This is not abandonment born from hurt feelings. This is not withdrawal driven by anger or disappointment or resentment. This is not the silent treatment or emotional manipulation disguised as spiritual practice. This is sacred retreat. This is conscious absence. This is love so pure, so free from self-interest, that it needs nothing, not even its own expression, not even its own acknowledgement, not even its own continuation. In that silence, both souls find what they were really looking for all along. In that spaciousness, real transformation becomes possible for the first time. In that emptiness, both the lover and the beloved discover who they are when they're not trying to be anything for anyone else, when they're not performing love or receiving love, but simply being love. The river knows when to go underground, when to flow beneath the surface where no one can see. The sun knows when to set, when to disappear behind the horizon and trust that its light will return. The wise heart knows when to love through absence rather than presence, when to care through distance rather than closeness. This is the love that can watch from afar without interfering. The love that can bless without touching. The love that can hope without expecting. The love that can care without controlling. The love that can want the best for someone without needing to be part of that best. And in that profound silence, something miraculous happens. You discover that love is not something you do. It is something you are. Love is not something you give or receive. It is the very ground of your being. Love is not something that comes and goes. It is what remains when all the stories fall away. Love is not dependent on any object, any person, any circumstance. It is your natural state, your essence, your truth. The highest love is the love that can die to itself completely and be reborn in the next moment, fresh and free and unconditioned by memory or expectation or attachment. This is the love that survives physical death because it was never dependent on the body. This is the love that transcends time because it exists outside of time. This is the love that needs no object because it is not separate from its source. This is the love that the mystics spoke of, that the sages embodied, that the awakened ones became. If these words have moved something deep within you, if they have touched a truth you recognize but could never articulate, if they have awakened a knowing that was always there but covered over by years of conditioning, write this below. I choose love that flows from fullness, not need. But let this be more than just words typed on a screen. Let this be your sacred commitment to the path of wholeness. Let this be your declaration of independence from all the old patterns that kept you small, that kept you hungry, that kept you searching outside for what was always waiting inside. Let this be your promise to yourself to do the work, to heal the wounds, to find your own completeness before asking anyone else to complete you. For this conversation, this revelation, this moment of seeing clearly is just the beginning of a much longer journey. There are deeper truths waiting to be discovered in the depths of your own being. There are more illusions waiting to be seen through with the light of awareness. There are more layers of freedom waiting to be claimed as you peel away everything that is not essentially you. The journey into authentic love. Love as a spiritual practice. Love as a way of being in the world. Love as your natural state rather than something you chase or possess. This journey has just begun, and it starts not with finding the right person to love you, but with becoming the person who needs no one, and therefore can love everyone freely. It starts not with healing someone else's wounds, but with healing your own so completely that you become a source of healing, rather than someone seeking to be healed. It starts not with finding yourself in someone else's eyes, but with finding yourself in the silence between heartbeats, in the space between thoughts, in the stillness that is always there beneath the noise. You are being called to love like the great masters loved throughout history, unconditionally without attachment to outcome, fearlessly, without protection or defense. From the place of infinite fullness that is your true nature, that has always been your true nature, that could never be diminished by any experience or circumstance. This is your invitation to step into spiritual maturity. This is your path to authentic freedom. This is who you really are when all the old stories about love and need and completion fall away like leaves from a tree in autumn. Stop seeking love. Start being love. Stop looking for your other half. Start recognizing your wholeness. Stop trying to find yourself in someone else. Start finding yourself in the infinite space of your own awareness. The beloved you have been looking for in all the wrong places has been waiting patiently in your own heart all along. The love you have been seeking outside has been the very essence of who you are from the very beginning. The completion you thought you needed from another was always your birthright, your natural state, your deepest truth. You are not broken. You never were. You are not incomplete. You never were. You are not half of something waiting to be made whole. You are wholeness itself, temporarily forgetting its own nature. The love you seek is the love you are. The healing you need is the healing you can give. The peace you crave is the peace you already possess. Remember this. Return to this. Rest in this. And let your love flow from this remembering, this recognition, this coming home to yourself.